Should you buy a luxury watch? For 99% of the people in the world, the answer is probably no, you probably shouldn't. But watch collectors are weird. And once you start getting into watch collecting, even at the affordable end of the spectrum, you start to think about that possibility of maybe one day getting an Omega or a Rolex, maybe saving up your money and buying that Royal Oak someday. And that's something that I've kind of been thinking about a little bit too. Should I start to save up and get a luxury watch? And the more I think about it, the more I think the answer is still no, probably not. So today I'm going to give you 4 reasons why I don't think I'm ever going to get a luxury watch. Hey guys, welcome back to Just the Watch. My name's Dave, I live in Japan, and I love to collect affordable watches. The way I want to kind of structure this video is I'm going to ask 4 questions, and if you answer yes to all 4 of these questions, then maybe you should get a luxury watch. But if your answer is no to any of these questions, maybe you ought to think about it a little bit more before you jump into it. Now, when I started collecting affordable watches, to me, a $250 Citizen Nighthawk was a luxury purchase. I couldn't ever imagine buying a watch more expensive than that. But since I started this YouTube channel, some interesting things have happened. One, I've gotten to learn a lot more about luxury pieces from watching other YouTube videos, and that has really helped me to appreciate them and to see the influence that the luxury end of the spectrum has on affordable watches. And yeah, a lot of the affordable watches that I look for take cues from luxury pieces. And as the channel has grown, something really interesting has happened. It's started to generate some revenue. From YouTube ad revenue and affiliate marketing and all that, the channel generates roughly around $1,000 a month. And there's the temptation there to say, hey, I could start banking that up, and maybe in a year from now, I'd have enough money to buy a luxury watch. And that was completely unthinkable to me before I started this channel. But as I've started to think about luxury watches as a possibility, I've started to also think about some of the big reasons why I still am not really planning on getting there. That's what I want to talk about today. And before we jump to it, I think we need to set a couple of ground rules here. Luxury is a very subjective term. So what's a luxury watch to me or to you could be something radically different. So for the purposes of this discussion, I'm going to talk about from my perspective, again, kind of like middle income American. And in that regards, I'm going to say a luxury watch is a watch that costs $5,000. So I'll be looking at it from the perspective of, should I spend $5,000 on a watch? The other thing I want to get out of the way is that I don't want to judge anybody who is deciding to buy a luxury watch. It's your money, you can do what you want with it. And if you own a luxury watch, I hope you enjoy it. But if you're like me and you're trying to figure out if you should save up and get a luxury watch, maybe this video will be helpful for you. All right, question number 1, could you afford to lose $5,000? There are few things more luxurious than a luxury watch. A luxury is by definition something that you don't need. It's something that you spend a lot of money on to get something nice that you feel like you really enjoy. And a watch that costs $5,000, $10,000, $100,000 definitely qualifies for that. If you need something to tell the time, a Casio F91W will do the job better than a $50,000 Patek Philippe. And there are few more volatile places to store your money than in a wristwatch on your wrist. If you buy a luxury watch and actually wear it, every time you go out, you're at risk of losing that $5,000. I've banged watches on rocks, I've fallen into water, I've done all kinds of things that could easily destroy a luxury watch if I had had it on my wrist at the time. And there's always the potential of it getting stolen. And for me, if I spent $5,000 on a watch and lost it, that would be pretty financially devastating. If I did buy it, I would probably have some hope of being able to recoup some of my investment in the future should I need that money back. Because my financial situation is such that, yeah, I might need that $5,000 somewhere down the road. Which brings up another point, which is that most luxury watches, if you buy them, they're going to lose a huge chunk of their value as soon as you leave the dealer. So unless you're buying a very specific watch or you're very smart about getting a good deal on a used watch, you're almost immediately going to lose a lot of that money. So I'm in a financial situation where I can't afford to lose $5,000, and that's one of the big reasons why I'm not really thinking about getting a luxury watch at this point. Question number 2, can you afford to maintain a luxury watch? This is the same with a lot of luxury items. If you think about buying a luxury car, you got to consider, can you afford to insure it or afford the maintenance on it? The same thing is true of luxury watches. If you own a cheap quartz watch, worst case, when it breaks, you can throw it away and buy a new one. But if you've invested $5,000 into a luxury watch and it needs servicing, or you do happen to damage it, it can cost you a significant amount of money, sometimes hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And so even if you do manage to save up the money to buy it, you also have to keep the maintenance costs kind of always in mind, because you don't want to wind up in a situation where you have a watch that you love that is damaged or in need of maintenance that you can't afford to maintain and then just can't wear it anymore. Now, the third thing to consider is probably the most controversial, and that's, is it actually the right thing to do? But before we jump into that, I want to remind you guys to check out the t-shirt store. Buying a luxury watch is a huge financial decision for a lot of people, but buying a t-shirt with some of your favorite luxury watches on it is a significantly smaller financial decision. So if you're interested in this t-shirt or a lot of other really cool ones that I've been putting together, make sure you head over to my t-shirt shop and check it out there. All right, so let's talk about the third question you should ask, which is it right to buy a luxury watch? So again, this is probably the most controversial thing I'm going to talk about. I might lose some people here, but hear me out for a second. So my religious background, I'm a Christian, and so I take the teachings of Jesus very seriously. And when I think about what I should do, I often look to that to try and gain some insight and some wisdom. And in the Bible, there's this concept of stewardship. It comes from a story that Jesus told about a rich guy who gave some of his money to some stewards or servants and asked them to invest it for him while he went on a trip. So a steward in those days could be thought of maybe like a hedge fund manager today. And what I learned from a story like that is that everything that I have, my finances, my time, my talents and abilities, are things that I've received from God, but they're not given to me to keep, they're given to me to invest for His purposes. Now, when it comes to hedge fund managers, the rich people want them to invest the money to make more money for them. But when it comes to God, He wants us to invest the things that He gives us for different things. He wants us to invest those things to bring about the increase of justice and love and salvation throughout the world. So one way to look at that in the context of deciding whether or not it's right to spend a large chunk of money is to consider what other things you're spending money on first. Are you investing your finances to support your church? Are you investing them to take care of your family? Are you investing them to help the poor and the needy throughout the world? Do you have friends or family that are struggling that you could help out? So at the very least, I would look at it and think, am I doing all of these other things first? And then if after that I can save up some money to buy a luxury watch for myself, then it might be okay. It might take me longer to get to the luxury watch for myself, but I really do think investing that money for God's purposes is going to bring me a lot more satisfaction and happiness, particularly in the long run, than just immediately blowing it on something that I want really badly. All right, so finally, last question you should ask yourself before you go out and purchase a luxury watch. Is that really what you even want? If you've gotten through the first three and you understand that you can afford to buy the watch, you're kind of morally in the clear to get it because you're taking care of all of your other responsibilities first. At that point, maybe there's no reason left why you shouldn't buy the watch other than to consider if that's really what you want. Because let's face it, $5,000 can buy you a lot of other things. For example, you could get a used car. Pretty much every car I've ever owned, including the one that I'm driving now, has cost around $5,000 or less. Big one to consider if you're married, you could buy new appliances for your whole house. New refrigerator, washer, dryer, microwave. Maybe not terribly exciting to you, but my wife would be thrilled with that kind of thing. Take the family on an overseas vacation. I've found that traveling is one of the most rewarding experiences there is, but it is very expensive, and to be able to take your family along with you to experience new cultures and new ways of life is a pretty amazing thing. Upgrade your home theater. You could buy a pretty nice big screen television, surround sound, heck, even throw in a new couch. Get yourself a PS5, all the coolest equipment and gear, and you could probably keep all that around $5,000. Now, it might seem like I'm trying to sway you away from that if you're in a position where you can afford to get a luxury watch, but that's not really what I'm trying to do at all. I'm just giving you some other alternatives to think about, and if you really want the luxury watch more than all of those other things, then yeah, maybe that's the best use of the money that you've kind of set aside to get yourself something. Now, I can't wait to see the comments on this video, so drop me a comment down below, let me know what you think. Try to keep it civil both towards me and other commenters because, yeah, this is probably one of the most controversial topics I've talked about. And it'll be interesting to see if I come back and watch this video 5 years from now with the Rolex on my wrist, thinking I was totally wrong about everything. Having this channel has seen my comfort zone for spending on watches creep up. But again, I feel like for me personally, a large part of that is because the channel itself is generating the revenue that I'm using to spend on those watches. I'm pretty sure if it weren't for that, my watch collection would be a lot more modest than it is right now. If you guys are interested in affordable watch collecting and content like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I am planning on doing a kind of a state of a collection sometime soon. I've been meaning to get to it for a while. So if you're interested in seeing exactly which watches I have now, stick around for that. Again, make sure you check out the t-shirt store as well. But that will wrap it up for today. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.